Oh, hello. Mhm. Так. I just would like to check if all work okay. I think yes, we can see it. Great. Very good. Hello, girls. So I just would like to check that all work nice. I see that working very good. Hello, hello, everyone. And we will start after 5 minutes. Milan also will include the insight. And I'm very happy. Hello, girls. So today for me very special day because very soon you will meet with Milan. I will say our story, and also people who would like to ask him something more personally, you can go in our Zoom registration. You have 3-4 minutes because previous time people say, Natalia, we wanted also to ask something. You can make a Zoom registration, it's free, and you can go inside the link from the LADA website. If you want, I can send you the link. I think I cannot send you a link from here. Check now if I can. And you can go inside in registration. In astrolada.com, you can find the link from registration in Zoom. Very nice. I am so happy then mostly of my teachers, which really changed my life, because very often you ask Natalia, tell me some book, some teachers who help you a lot. I not have so many teachers because I'm very high level about teachers, but has several people who really was helped me a lot, and I am so feel graduate when I can invite these people to meet with you and also to help to you to change, because I believe that's very big job when you can change your life and when you can meet with amazing people. I will try to say you the link about. It doesn't work from there. Wait, I can try to do it from YouTube here. And we will work today. Girls, Milan, he will explain about himself, but if you have some questions, some things which are really important about you, about heart, how to open your heart, about relationship, welcome. I think he can be very helpful to you to work with this. And I hope you will use this opportunity. Milan, you're already here. Great. I just check if it was okay. I connected with YouTube channel. I can, if I can say the link, if you want to also to follow it, because we have many people in YouTube channel which follow us. I will see if in Zoom I can send you the link and you can see it too. Right, if you can open this link and to see it from there also the questions. Girls, I will be very happy if you will tell me from which country you are. This is a geographic of the things, from which country you are. India, Israel. Oh, we have somebody from Israel. Romania, England, Canada. which country you are. Good morning, good morning. How to connect Zoom? I tried to send you a link, but I cannot because I am outside of this. If you can, is already go to Lada website and has program with Milan. It's called, I will tell you now. Oh, wait, if I can go from this YouTube. Thank you. Go to Astrolada in my page, and maybe you can see it. I will try now to send it here. I can check. Other website and has program with Milan. And in Zoom, it's better for you because you can ask him, he can see you also. And who would like to make Zoom, it's free registration. You can go there, you have 2 minutes before to start. Free webinar with Milan Karmeli. If you go on Lada website and my page. Так. Doesn't work. Okay, Ireland, Canada, UK, Canada, France, Greece, hello, Netherlands. Okay. So I think we can start slowly. I prepare, Milan, prepare some questions, and I would like to introduce you a little bit about him. And how I say, I'm very, very happy today because when I can meet you with the best teachers and people who really influence in my life, for me, it's a big honor and it's a lot of enjoying. We met with Milan, I don't remember already, maybe 7-8 years ago. In this period of time, for me, was very difficult to speak about my emotions, about my feelings, and about my anger. I had it a lot inside me, but I was sure that it's very bad to speak about these feelings. And he had one amazing 5 days seminars. It was so strong. I was like a new person. What I like about Milan, he sees in your eyes, and like you feel that he sees your soul. He can see inside what happened with you, and immediately he see your inner truth. I never saw, I had many teachers in my life, but I never saw what Milan do it, how he can incite you, how you can see the truth of people. It's something really fantastic. For me, Milan, one of person who live through his heart and through his inner truth. And today I would like to introduce you to him. And Milan, welcome to our channel of Lada. And if you would like to say several words about you before I to ask you the questions.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me and introducing me in such a generous way, Natalia. So I'm originally from Germany. I grew up in Germany and in the UK. And today I live in Tel Aviv. I have 4 kids. This is, I think, always also an interesting piece of information. You know, do you have family? Don't you have family? Do you know, we're talking about relationships a lot. My work is in the field of therapy and individual therapy and couple therapy and a lot of group work. And I think once we go through the different questions, I think you will also get quite familiar with the way I think about therapy and healing, relationships, and some of the themes that will also be presented in the webinars. So I suggest we just go right in.
Okay. What do you regard as role of therapy? What do you regard?
So for me, the way I see life is quite, I would say, complicated. We grow up with a lot of rules. Each one of us come from strong cultures that define how we should live, what is of value. Yes, our values come from when we are children. And so the conditioning defines very much how we think about ourselves, what we feel to be valuable, what we feel not to be valuable. And so I think for many of us, life can be quite confusing, because then we grow up and there's a part in us, I would call it, there is an intuition in us that feels what is right or wrong, what we want to do, what we don't want to do, what feels important and not important. And then there is a strong voice in us that says what we should be doing. So there is a lot of confusion that grows over the years in our life. And therapy is a way for us to kind of find out who we've become over the years of 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Something evolves. We become a certain kind of person. We become a certain kind of personality. But not all of that is us. And the role of therapy is to like untie those dots and to see what can we really say about ourselves, that we say, this is mine. This is not my my conditioning, or this is not my guilt talking, or this is not my shame talking. And of course, many of us also experience a lot of trauma in our life, and trauma usually is not really processed, but also goes into our personality. So just a lot of things. We lose people, some people get sick, you know, there are just so many things that happen through our lives that shape us. And what we often don't really, we don't, what I find really is we don't really learn to talk a lot in a simple way about ourselves. We talk either in a way where our problems become very big and define us, but that also keeps us kind of stuck, because then I'm so identified with being a very specific person, then it doesn't leave out something else that I am. It doesn't give room for our strengths or for our qualities. Yeah. So if I suffered for example, a lot in my life, then that kind of colors who I am, and it doesn't really leave room for the strengths that I have or the qualities that I have. So therapy really brings a kind of a normalization of our feelings into our life, where we look at ourselves in a more, I would really call it a more normal way, a more simple way. And that in itself is very healing. I think another part of therapy is because shame and guilt are very strong feelings in our lives that almost everybody experiences. What often gets hurt is our ability to contribute in life. Yeah, we feel, am I worthy enough really to give? Am I worthy enough to belong? To have a right to contribute, to belong? And therapy is, again, I feel a safe place where we reconnect to something more essential in us, something that we can trust, and where we also come back and feel, yes, I have the right to be here. Yeah, despite my experiences for the past, despite my mistakes, despite the shame I carry for things that have been done to me or that I have done to others, or the guilt that I carry. So this normalization in therapy that is created allows us to step back into life and be part, to contribute, to be in service, to belong, and not so much to see ourselves maybe as victims or somebody who has to work always very, very hard to be worthy of a little bit of love. Yes.
No, I just would like exactly what you explained, to remember my experience when I've been with you, when I grew up like need to be very good girl. and I was not allowing myself to be angry. And I was sure that if I will angry, so people will hate me. And on one of your exercise, we need it was a space, exactly how you explain the space when you can to be yourself. And first time in my life, I think, okay, maybe little step to show that I'm angry. And I show it and nobody not kill me. And I was, maybe I can a little bit more to be angry and a little bit more. And finally I was screaming so hard and I understood how much anger I put inside myself, and I never allow. And this therapeutic space exactly give me this energy to understand who I am. It's exactly what you explained, to be you, because we play so fake roles to be good girl, good boy, to do something what good from our parents, but you cannot find yourself. And I'm sure that without therapy, you cannot do it. You can all life you be invisible and to suffer. And therapy is the most important in the life.
I think it's important for all of us because there are very few places in our lives where it's really so safe and also invited. It's not just safe, it's invited to bring in whatever you feel. And anger, like you just shared, is a very strong feeling we all have. And this is also why it's one of the webinars. We all have a certain feeling towards anger. Either we love it, yeah, but then probably it takes too much space in our lives, or we're really afraid of it, and then certain things cannot be expressed. Yeah, so in therapy, we really have the space to explore all the different sides to our inner experience. Yes.
Yeah. What motivates you about your work?
What motivates me?
Why you do it? Why you decide to do it?
What I really love when I work with people is individually or in couples or in groups is what we create together. Yes, there is, for me, the basis of everything is trust and respect. And that doesn't just come. We don't just trust, or we don't just have respect for one another. Yeah, it's something that has to be worked for. It has to be created, and it needs room to grow. And I love this joint space that is created through openness, through sincerity. And I love to use the word sincerity instead of being serious. And many times we want to be serious about something. I really want to be all in, but it's not about, when we are serious, and there's an interest there. We already have a certain motivation. When we are sincere, we're just available to, we're kind of curious, but in a sincere way. And that's what I really love when I work with people, this joint creation of depth. Yeah, we both come with this curiosity to find out what is really there. Yeah, and of course, we all have a certain idea about what happened to us, or why our relationships don't work, or why don't we proceed in our work? Why are we stuck? Yeah, we have a lot of ideas about who we are, and what is fascinating in this work, of course, is to see always what are the underlying dynamics, because it's very rarely what we think the reality is. It's more often something that it's like a blind spot that we have, and this of course makes the work very interesting for both sides to discover what are the underlying dynamics. And those are also these aha moments in the work where we feel, and something can also relax. Because I think something very important for us in our life is to speak truthfully. Something just happens in us when we speak. It's like what you said about the anger, Natalia. The moment you could express the anger, yeah, it was something truthful in you. It's like a frustration that is there. And then something can relax. And it's the same for us in our lives. When truth can be spoken, something in us finally can relax. And actually, we are so afraid many times of that truth. But when we actually allow it, it's like we come back home.
I would
And
like
that's what I
also
love to create there. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I would like also to share, I know one couple who've been on your seminar 2 years ago. She has fantasy, her father very successful man, and she has a fantasy that her husband need to be the same. But her husband, he's not has this potential, he has different good qualities. And for her, it was very difficult. All time she tried to change him, to change. And when she come on your seminar, they've been together. First time she really see him. That he is not her father, and he cannot be. And there was before divorce, and they wanted to divorce. They have one baby, and after your seminar, they have second baby. They are together. She totally accept this role that she is not her father. But most interesting that she also try all time to be very successful. With first baby, when she births, she immediately go to work with laptop like this. When she understands her inner truth, she say, it's not me. I don't want to be like my mother, because her mother was like this. She was very working. And I don't want my husband to be my father. And she totally changed the model. Now she has second baby. She stay home. She really enjoy every moment. And she say, I stay in my inner truth. First time in my almost 40 years, I come back to myself. And it's really, when I see the results, what happened, it's so beautiful process. And I will say after which happened with it, but very beautiful process. So do you see a connection between therapy and spirituality? How it for you?
I think this is a very interesting theme, because spirituality is a word that is used, I think, very lightly today. We also, through the introduction of many practices like yoga and meditation, so we easily speak about spirituality. But spirituality has a lot to do with therapy. Spirituality essentially has something to do with non-separation, with inclusion. Yeah? And that is something where we don't separate. It's not about me. It's about belonging. And I don't even want to talk about spirituality, because it would be arrogant of me to speak about it. But in connection, because I'm in a way on my own journey in creating a place where there is less and less separation. But what I see the role of therapy is when we allow everything to be included, when I don't have to leave certain parts of myself out anymore. I don't have to leave the anger out, or I don't have to leave the shame out. I don't have to exclude anything. Something integrates in me, and that is really what we're looking for. And this is so Adi Ashanti, who's I love this teacher. He says it very beautifully. Therapy is about growing up, and spirituality is about waking up. Yeah. So in a way, therapy allows us why grow up, because we don't play the game anymore of this I allow to be part of my life, this I don't allow, this I will repress, this I will show, here I will stay in control, and here I will let go. It's like, no, there is something where I really take responsibility for who I've become, and not this harsh responsibility that we usually learn, but it's more of an acceptance of who I am. And I feel that really also opens a door to spirit. It opens a door, I just came back from a process that I truly love, like this 1 week process called Path of Love. Never mind about the process, but somebody came back and we also touched this theme around prayer. And I said to her, you know what you can try? You can try to pray out loud. Yeah, because usually we pray very intimately. So like I pray in my heart. But what if I actually say a prayer out loud? What if I speak it out? What if I let my own self hear what I really long for in my life? Yeah, there is something that happens there. Yeah, I allow really everything in me to be expressed. I don't hold it back anymore. I allow even this contact with something mysterious. So there is something about therapy that, because it's so inclusive, we don't exclude anything anymore. It's in a way also, it allows this bridge to spirituality, which is about non-separation. It's about letting everything be there, and they complement one another.
Therapy is a wide field. What do you specialize in?
So today my main field of specialization is relationship dynamics, and the other one is shadow work. But I also deal with things around self-worth. I have a group around choices, how we make choices in our lives. So, but I would say the main work today are these two different fields that are also complementary, is relationship dynamics and shadow work.
Oh, I love this topic, the shadow work. Very often I speak about clients with this. What makes relationships and shadow work such potential and important subjects? I has my opinion about this, but I really, because for me, Milan was the person who wake up me in shadow. And first time I listened about shadow from you many years ago. And for me, you're the best and the worst specialist about shadow. Can you a little bit more to share about this?
Sure. So actually the two are also connected, because of a lot of our shadow comes out in relationships. But let's start with relationships. This is a place where so many hopes and dreams and fantasies come together when we talk about love. Yeah? When I fall in love with somebody, I also give that person all my hopes. And what happens in a relationship later is, of course, our hopes for being seen, for being loved, for being accepted the way we are, which we usually, why doesn't this work, is because we don't really accept ourselves. Yeah. So if somebody else accepts us, we cannot really trust that. But later on in a relationship, our hopes, our dreams, our fantasies meet a certain reality. And this is where the hardship starts in a relationship. And of course, a lot of projection happens in relationships where we say, okay, I will find somebody who's really an intelligent person. Yeah. And this always tells us something. I always say to people, you're in the right relationship. And that many times feels very strange, because you say, but this is a very painful relationship. How can it be the right relationship? It's the right relationship in the sense that we choose something that we oftentimes haven't completed in ourselves. So if I, for example, if I choose somebody, I really look for people who are really intelligent. Yeah. It usually gives us some kind of an indication about what role intelligence played in our lives, in our families. Was I judged for not being intelligent enough, or not being smart enough, successful enough? Yeah. So I try to get that from the outside. And of course that clashes. And what happens with our partner, usually the partner who we invite into our lives with those qualities will say, yes, of course, I'm willingly giving you my intelligence. Here, take as much as you want, or take as much care as you want. Yes, if I look for a very caring person. But at some stage, we feel that we don't want to give it anymore. We are willing to do a lot at the beginning of a relationship just for that connection, for that hopeful connection. But afterwards, we feel kind of manipulated or used. And to look at this dynamic, to understand it, I find that so important. I think there is no other place in our life other than relationships where, because we make a commitment to each other, there is this potential that we can really heal something. Yeah. What is the commitment for? The commitment is for not running away at the first opportunity when we see actually, oh, this is not really what I wanted. This isn't what I signed up for. This isn't what I was hoping for. Yeah, you're not the promise that I thought about. But to stay and to become vulnerable towards one another, yeah, is to really show. And the interesting thing here is, for many people, that's actually not a very romantic thing. When we think about relationships, we think about butterflies, we think about a lot of feelings, but a relationship actually needs a lot of sincerity, it needs respect. And here we touch another issue that is, of course, huge, and that is this whole theme around men and women. Yeah. How do I see myself as a man? How do I see myself as a woman? What do I think about the opposite sex? And in the work, it always comes out how much pain has been caused by both sides over generations. How much disrespect is there? How much distrust is there in this relationship? So intimate relationships, of course, they just have so much potential for looking inside, stepping out of idealization, stepping out of our roles. We take on a lot of roles in relationships. Yeah. And to step into something that is more truthful, where we really show up, where I really come in as a man and I hold my truth as a man. How do I feel about myself? Where do I feel stuck? How do I see women? Yeah, all these things come up in when we look at relationships. And what I also find very important and valuable to look at the end of the day, because I think there are a lot of differences between us today. It's almost not politically correct anymore to say that, but from the work I just see it's just so many differences between us. So it's not about becoming the same so much, but it's about seeing how are these differences in service of one another. How am I as a man? How can I be in service to my partner, and vice versa? So it's just a really, really fascinating field. And I think it's also really important, because if we can create some healing in a relationship, if we find more respect for one another, more trust, more communication, more service for one another, it reaches our children, and it has so much more potential for healing something in the collective. But it starts with us, and the relationship is a building block here. And about shadow work is, of course, is a huge theme. And just to say, because for many people it's just a word, just to frame it for a moment, shadow work addresses the parts in us that we don't really like to look at. Yeah, what we like to do in our lives is to show how beautiful, intelligent, successful, how caring we are. Yeah, we usually don't so much like, and actually here I will say something in a moment that makes it a little bit more complicated, but it's important. We don't really like so much to show the vulnerable side in us. Yeah, we rather show only a certain part in us, and that creates a sort of disconnection in ourselves, because there is always this fear in us to be exposed. We all have that part that is in constant fear of being exposed for something that others can find out about us, that we know exists. Yeah, it's things that we have done, it's secrets that we keep. Yeah, it's many times about shame, guilt, secrets. But what's also interesting, the shadow side doesn't only have to do with those things that we hide, but it also sometimes our suffering can be a shadow side because we use it as a protection. Yeah. So actually our shadow is that we don't want to show our strength. That can be a shadow. So shadow work is really, it's again what I said earlier about spirituality and therapy. Shadow work is such an important part of the therapeutic world, where we look to find more integration. We look to include more and more parts of ourselves, to look at them, to face the shame, but with a more normalized feelings, not to be dramatic about it, not to be too over emotional about it, yeah, but to start receiving that totality of who we've become without being attached to anything, yeah. So that is really the benefit of shadow work, and it's kind of stepping out of the control, because what we do when we don't want to look at our shadow, we want to stay in control. Yeah. And the beautiful thing actually is, the more shadow work we do, what we feel is we feel much more in control than we are, because there's not this fears. The fear is not so strong of being exposed. There is more self-love. Yeah? This is really about self. The shadow work is totally about self-love. It's about showing myself to myself who I am. Owning that somebody asked about worthiness. Yeah, when I do workshops on worthiness, it's basically about shadow work, because it's about allowing myself to see myself in all those different parts, and that in itself creates a sense of worthiness, because I can allow myself to be complete. I don't have to split myself into those pieces the way I do it usually. We all have a very strong inner judge that all the time like pounds us and says how terrible we are and how much better we should be and how much more beautiful and successful. And yeah, so this work is really about self-love.
Oh, I go in trance when I listen to you. I come back in memory when I was on your seminar, and it was one of the most beautiful exercises which I did in my life, when we, not to explain this exercise, but shortly, when we need to boil the men in our generations. And I, at this moment, even don't realize how angry and how bad feeling I have about men in general, because I suddenly remember story when my grandfather, he was very bad with my grandmother, and some story which I never saw, but I always listen. And in my unconscious mind, so deep, stay a lot of fears. And all the time I wanted to be good, because I think if I'm not good, it's too dangerous. It meant you hurt me. And I never listened what I want, what is my needs, and my shadow was to play this role, to be comfortable, and to stay in my fears, to be very small, not to allow myself to be myself. And it was first anger, but after it's really come trust to men, trust to share, trust to open my heart. After this, I had muscle pain. All my body was pain. 1 week I couldn't move my body. I was shocked that from psychological, when you open something in your soul, in your brain, your body reacts, your body remember. It's memory in our DNA, it's our cells inside. It was very deep when you go out of shadow, and when you really accept your shadow, when you can love yourself even if you're not perfect, when you can love yourself even if you're lazy, or if you're stupid, or if you're don't know what is correct, or even if you do something bad, you steal something, or you do, and again you love yourself. It's exactly somebody of you, right? Can you talk about self-worth? It's about this. When you really can be connected with yourself, to see your inner truth of your family, because I belong to this family. It's like to say I don't accept them, but it's part of my family. And Milan was helped me a lot to see this, and to see it through love, not through judgment, because when we judge, we go more far away from yourself. To see it through love, through forgiveness, and through accept it and to belong to this. It's beautiful work. What you're doing, it's really beautiful work. You do many topics. I know at the moment we choose, highly recommend, I hope quarantine will finish and we plan to make one seminar with Milan will do. We will put information on the website about shadow work. He has an amazing, beautiful seminar about this and about relationship, one of my favorite. But now we prepare 2 webinars and we chosen 2 very important topics, anger and trust. Can you tell us about these themes and what people can expect from this webinar? So for you think it's maybe fundamental, because at least it's very fundamental when first to work with your angers and after you work with your trust. Why you choose this and why it's so important to work with this? What it's for you, anger and trust.
So let's start with the trust, because I think this is also the first one that we will air. I think usually our relationship to trust is more to put it outside. So I would say, Natalia, I trust you, or I don't trust you. And then what happens easily is you will betray my trust, because maybe you do something a little bit unexpected, or you will do it a little bit different, or you will not inform me, or I will not ask you. Yeah, there's so many different ways in which we easily feel betrayed. Yeah, this is a very common feeling that we feel in a relationship to trust. So our impulse is to put the trust outside and give the responsibility for feeling trust to somebody else. And that is, of course, very tricky, because trust is not about putting it somewhere else. Trust is something that we need to feel and cultivate and take responsibility for in ourselves. And so we kind of have to go back for a moment to where trust was broken. Trust has a lot to do with intuition. Yes, I intuitively trust something in my gut. Yes, and I either go with it or not. And that's kind of where we feel self-betrayal many times, when I say, oh, but I knew this. I knew I shouldn't come closer to this person. Knew I shouldn't have bought from this provider or done this or that. Yeah, we know this. Yeah. And I didn't trust my gut feeling. And that is something that very often was really disconnected very early in our life, because it even starts with these little things, you know, where we see maybe our parents fighting. And then we go to our parents and say, but so what happened? Are you angry at each other? And our parents then say, no, everything is fine. Yeah. So very early in our life, we kind of lose the trust in our own intuition. We lose the trust in our own words, yeah, in the way we interpret the world, because we are told that what you think either is not true, or it's not valuable, yeah, or you cannot really, it's not worthy of consideration. So trust is something that we have, and I think this is a very important point. Trust is something that we have when we allow ourselves to move. And that's exactly the opposite of what we are taught to do. We are taught to become something. So we are taught to become a doctor, a therapist, whatever it is. Yeah? We're taught to become something. And whenever we are taught to become something, as a man, woman, as a profession, as a friend, as a lover, as a partner, yeah, it means there is something that is rigid in there. Because if I'm one thing, I cannot be something else. Yeah. If I believe in this, then I cannot believe in that. Yeah. So there is this rigidity in our life. It doesn't allow us to move. I'm not allowed to really change, because then I change who I am to the outside world. And then how will people relate to me? Yeah? But what I lose is the trust in listening to like an inner voice inside myself. and I'm sacrificing that trust in order to be something dependable, rigid, something people can expect exactly the same thing again and again and again. So the price is very, very big, and the price is actually also we're kind of disconnecting from the flow of life. Yeah, because life is very rich. It all the time brings us new information. What we're actually saying is, I don't let this new information in. Yeah, because I have a certain plan for life. I have a certain, like, I control life the way I want. So trust doesn't really play a function in our life again. So this workshop, the webinar is really about inviting again the kind of courage in us to move out of our comfort zone. Yes, to listen, to really truly listen, to become available, to be here right now, and to see what is really, what makes sense. Where we have all this natural sense of what is right or wrong, what feels good or bad, and we have that, but many times we don't listen to it. So this webinar is really about, and we're going to do also there, it's going to be quite interactive. It's a lot about allowing ourselves to be available. So it's this whole webinar is about getting a new perspective on what trust is, not so much about trusting others, but finding something that I can trust in myself, and more to become agents ourselves and not so much depend on the outside, and to play. I think really it's about playing, having the chance to play a little bit with this word of trust and not make it into such a rigid concept the way we have it today. So this is around the webinar on trust. And the webinar on anger, like you said earlier, your relationship to anger is something where, and I just want to stop for a moment. I see there are a lot of questions, so you tell me how we want to address them. Maybe after this we'll just give some space. So like you said, anger is something that you had, for example, resistance to expressing. Yes, because many times anger is something that we learned something about. Yeah, either we had a lot of anger in our home, so we decided, I don't want to have anything to do with that, or anger was this constant energy, and that's actually the only way I get things done. I get angry. Or there's shame the moment I expressed anger. Yeah, so we all have very complicated relationships to anger. So it's a very strong feeling that takes us over. It's like really a feeling that takes our body over, our feelings when we have it. And it leaves us kind of in an unconscious space. And if we really look at anger, it has a lot to do with helplessness. Yeah. So anger, aggression, rage, we all can, we want to put them underneath one umbrella, but I think part of what we want to do in this webinar is really to understand what is anger, what are the different parts of anger, what is rage, what is anger, what is good anger, yeah, because actually there are no relationships without anger. If I cannot express anger, I basically cannot work through something. Because the anger tells me something about something doesn't feel right. I'm either being not told the truth, or something doesn't smell right. I cannot really put my finger on it. Maybe I'm not respected. Something is happening. And if I cannot go through the anger, I cannot come out on the other end with a sense of trust again. And here it's related to trust. We have to, in order to be in a relationship, we have to be able to express anger. And many relationships actually, because of the things that we experienced in the past, say anger, no, cannot be part of our relationship. Everything very cultured and calm and harmonious, but it keeps us from contact. So this whole theme around anger, why I feel it's so important, it's because it blocks us from contact, which is actually the most important thing for all of us. We want contact, we want connection. And if we cannot express anger in a healthy way, we cannot get that.
Mhm.
So that's why I feel this is such a beautiful topic to explore, and we also have so much shame. It's about normalizing something. We want to look at anger and get an idea, oh, actually it's not this demon out there. It's something that we all have. It's more about what is actually the intention behind it. How can I express it? And to understand the different kinds of anger. And it's also very interesting to look at it. So these are the two themes which I also feel are very interrelated.
Yes, I would like to tell you also that we are very lucky because General Milan, he's not commercial. He even don't like to use Facebook. I love you from this Milan. And he don't, because has many commercial therapists which only advertisement. Milan fully all time. And with very big problems we find only 2 days when we can make it in the Sunday because he busy all the time. He booked for a long time. He do many therapy. He worked from very specific systems, and many people know him in professional. For me, you are in the top therapist in the world because you do very deep workshops which make Milan. It has not more than therapists in the world which can make it. And I'm very thankful that you find from your crazy busy time this Sunday when you're with your family to do it for us. And that's will two topics which I believe that's very fundamental, because every time you ask me these questions about relationship blockage, and every time I want to say, go through first fundamental things, trust and anger with Milan. After it will clean you, you will release and you will rechange your place in your frozen system, and it will unfroze. For me, Milan is one very good unfrozen person, because a lot of us, we are frozen in our emotion, and you need to work with this. Milan will do exercise with you, and which really very working. We have some questions of people. The date of this, we will send you links. It's will certain 10th of May in the evening, because many people from America, they can go in this time. And really for me, it's the best what you can do from yourself to understand who you are better and deeper. People who pass my geisha, my seminar, you need it. It's very different from I'm doing, and you find yourself more complicated, more fulfilled in what you're doing. Because promotion, if you take it both, my recommendation, take it both all together. Milan expensive therapist, now it has promotion from Lada, and our help to this situation in the world, it's only $99 from both, or $69 per one. It's you will receive more value from this. Highly recommend. We will put the links in Lada YouTube. You can find it after, and Lada website, you can find it and to buy it from there. We had some questions of people. Can we a little bit to you say several words about the questions of people in here in the groups?
So let me just check for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I'm in a new relationship. NH is right. I'm in a new relationship, and every time I am really angry, I break up with him. But the next morning, when I calm down, I want to patch up. I feel like I'm deceiving my judgment of breakup. Whenever we are very angry, there is a very big expectation that we have towards somebody. And usually when we come with a big expectation into a relationship, the other side feels obliged, feels almost manipulated to meet that expectation. And this is probably also where there's a certain part that is unconscious about the anger. What is it really that makes you angry? Or what is it really that is expected? What would really bring a certain calmness or satisfaction, I would say, into your system if that expectation was met? Although when we are very angry, there is usually, again, I talked about these hidden dynamics. There's something else playing out. So I feel here I would really look at, in an honest and sincere way, what really, in a very simple way, what is the expectation? What if I would let my fantasy run free right now, what is really the expectation that I have behind that anger? What is it really that I need? And many times it has something to, I need attention. So it really hits a very vulnerable level inside of us. And the anger, of course, what it does, it doesn't really make us vulnerable. When I'm angry, I don't feel vulnerable. Both sides, because the person who receives the anger also doesn't feel vulnerable because he feels attacked. So here I would really take a moment to look in a vulnerable way. What am I afraid that I won't get, or that I will miss, or that where I won't be seen? I don't know how we are with time. Should I look at some more, Natalia?
Yeah, we have 12 minutes more. We have time.
So Patrice is writing, how can you contact Milan? You just look for Milan Karmeli. I get more and more emotional the older I get. Crying, could this also be anger? There is something about when we become older and things have not fallen into place in our life, where that emotionality that you're talking about is like we are becoming more, I would say, vulnerable to time, to life, to missed opportunities, to lost time. And the crying, I feel, is related to that. Yes, the crying is, what have I missed here? What have I lost touch with? Can I reclaim that? Maybe anger is a part of that. Maybe because you didn't express anger in certain situations, you actually lost certain connections, or you had to sacrifice a lot. So that's what I sense around that question from Patrice. And Birute, yes, go ahead.
We have in Zoom some questions, how to show the vulnerable side. Can you give an example, please?
Okay, that's a beautiful question. Because vulnerability is also such a big topic, and I think often a misunderstood topic. What we often think about vulnerability is we think that if I tell you what I need or what I feel, you should actually hear that and provide for it and take away that strong feeling. Yeah. But vulnerability is something quite different. Vulnerability is to show who we are, because we are all, just by being human beings, we are very vulnerable. Just looking at this corona crisis, look how vulnerable we've all become. Yeah, with social distancing, we can't travel, we might have lost our jobs. Yeah, there is a huge vulnerability by being alive, by allowing connections, by being in a relationship, by having children. Yeah, it makes us vulnerable. Life makes us vulnerable. So to be vulnerable is actually to be, I would almost say, is like to show our normal side. Is not to show our special side. It's something simple. It's about showing up the way we are. It's about showing up what we feel right now without making it bigger or smaller. And it's, of course, about ourselves. Yeah. If I share my vulnerability, it's not by blaming somebody else, but like saying to my partner, for example, I feel lonely right now. Yeah. Because I know that you are really busy, and I just feel that this loneliness around you or next to you. And it's not asking for anything from your partner. Or you could also ask something, but it's about you. Yeah, we are vulnerable when we really talk about ourselves. So I hope I addressed that. It's a very big topic.
Mm-hmm.
How can I, oh, what an interesting question from Jane. How can we differentiate between narcissism and deep self-love? Well, of course, I cannot, this is a very theoretical question, but I'll just from the top of my head, what comes to me here, when somebody really feels deep self-love, it's not in competition with anything else. It's not about being a deeper self-love with yourself than loving others. It's not in competition. It's beautiful if somebody feels deep self-love. Usually, if we really feel deep self-love, we also feel deep love for others. Yeah, it doesn't, there's nothing exclusive about it. So, and narcissism is that exclusive quality. It's about me. It's about what I want and how I want to shine. You already answered that, so true. All right. Any other questions? How do we open our heart in spite of past sexual abuse? I still have some fear about intimacy and being heard. So this is a really vulnerable question from Delia Halici. And sexual abuse always leaves a lot of footprints. It leaves the footprint of anger and the footprint of shame and the footprint of confusion. Yeah, it leaves so many different footprints. And I think here also, I think it's what is needed when we come with sexual abuse into a relationship is not to put it on our partner, but to make it clear that it's there. It's part of something that I bring into a relationship. It's a burden that comes into the relationship, whether I want it or not. It's a heightened fear. It's a vigilance. It's just part of me, and the relationship will have to be able to address it. That doesn't mean that my partner is responsible for it, but it has to have room, and your role will be to learn to be as open as you can about the feelings that the abuse leave for you, so that you can really be available to your partner without projecting things on your partner. I hope I answered this complex question just with a few words.
Mm-hmm. And we have from Cass here on YouTube, how we can heal patterns of emotional eating.
Where is this, in YouTube or?
Mm-hmm. In YouTube.
How can we heal patterns of emotional eating that start during childhood abuse, controlling parent? This is, obviously I cannot give an answer how to heal patterns of emotional eating. But it does remind me of something that Natalia said earlier about the body. Yes, whenever there is trauma, there is even this famous book, The Body Remembers. Yeah, it's when we talk about trauma, it has a lot to do with stuck emotions in our system. It's not so much things that we can figure out, but these are very, also eating is a visceral thing. It's a somatic thing. It's about feeling something. We want to feel something. So it's not that I could just give you a tip right now that would heal that or would point you towards healing, but it's rather, it's this willingness to let your body talk. It's this willingness to see how the trauma was felt or the abuse was felt as a child, and to slowly release those traumas through work. Yeah, this really needs time to go through sensitive issues like that. Yeah, and I saw Kath already said thank you. Can emotional eating also point to a frozen phase in our life? Well, I think all what trauma does is it freezes us in time. That's exactly what trauma does. We have a trauma, and from that point on, something in our personality doesn't continue developing. Actually, our personality develops around, that's from Anika Jain, that our personality develops around the trauma so that we don't feel the trauma so much. So the role of the personality almost becomes to be in service of the trauma. So this frozen phase is always true about trauma. Something in us freezes. Creepy Kita, how can I detach from a toxic relationship? Well, here I always have to put a little bit of a smile on, because what I see in the work is we're always in the right relationship. Yeah. And that sounds, I know it sounds terrible, but I don't mean it in that way. What I mean is we have to look in a very honest way what keeps repeating in my life. So and it usually has something to do with something that is not complete in us. Yeah. We are repeating something because we cannot give it to ourselves. Yeah. If I take this example before of intelligence, if I keep on looking for people who are really intelligent people, or if I keep looking for people who are successful, yeah, there is something in me that cannot be successful in my own right. Yes, I'm giving it to somebody else. So if I'm in a toxic relationship for whatever reason, yeah, because that person doesn't respect me. So if I meet this place of lack of respect over and over again in my relationships, it tells me something about how do I respect? What do I understand to respect to be? How do I respect myself? What are boundaries? How do I protect them? How do I take care of them? Yeah. So it's always, if I'm in a toxic relationship, it's always good to look at what do I look for in another person to hope to get that I cannot give to myself. And there is one more from Mani. The last one. Okay, so real love means that knowing without talking each other and by acting according to partner's feeling, isn't it? Absolutely not. And I think this is such an amazing question, yeah? So the question basically is, isn't real love that we can read each other's lips and that love actually provides for all the things that are needed in the relationship? And here I will just show something very briefly, the 3 stages of relating. Yeah, the first stage is falling in love. And what we see here is we are merging. We don't really see each other. We are in this fantasy world of who we want the other person to be. In the second stage, we start seeing, okay, so this is the other person. Then we're usually trying to convince the other person to come over to our values or to connect in our ways. And here there's a lot of conflict going on. And here's also where many couples decide, okay, are we going to stay together or not? Yeah, many couples stay here for ages. Yeah. And the third stage is to turn around and say, okay, we are going together to find something that is bigger than just the two of us, because that's actually the reality. Wholeness cannot be found just between two people. Yeah, for that, the world is far too big. And this hope of finding everything through this love here, that is actually a childish part in us that says, I don't want to make myself vulnerable. I don't want to really explain to you what I need and what I feel. I just want you to know it. It's like between a mother and a child. The mother just intuitively feels, but that's not how we can act in our world as adults. We have to learn to take responsibility for ourselves, for our needs, and learn to express them and communicate them. And many of them will not be met. Many will. And by the way, if we don't ask for something, but we expect it to happen, even if we receive it, the person who gives it to us will do it with resentment, not with love. But if we ask for something and we get it, we feel we deserve it, and the person who gives it to us has the choice to give it. So he also feels good about it. So absolutely, we have to actually learn to talk a lot about things that we want in our relationships and not just expect them to happen.
So I think it's a very good database, the fundamental things about trust and anger. We will see, and probably in future we will, Milan will prepare some topic about relationship, because I see many questions about this. Our time become better and better. Yours, I love Lada a lot, and I'm very thankful that she gave opportunity to meet you with Milan. My target to take you the best therapist in the world here, because I am therapist, and believe me, I has very high standard. And I not will take you some commercial, which has a lot of advertisement, but you cannot find really deep. I hope from this hour you feel the field of Milan. Oh, Milan, I love your field. I like in trance, you know, something inside me become to vibrate. It's totally different vibration. Believe me, I've been in many, many seminars, but I never have what I have with Milan. It's something which you need to feel. From this way, I very wanted you to go there and to listen him. It's totally stronger when you can see with him face to face. He's very deep therapist, and we would like in the summer, I hope to make one seminar about relationship, because I saw the topic very looking in Greece. We plan to do it in Athens or some islands here. I hope quarantine will finish and we can travel again and organize. But let's start, and because I would like first, before to go his real seminar, to pass from webinars, because he give very fundamental and preparation. And now we work all like this to make this preparation. First to go from webinars, after you go to live event. He give his time. Believe me, he's with small daughter, and it's very expensive time from him, not like a money, like a time of his life. He make it for us today, and I'm very thankful, Milan, from your hour. He will make it from you 2 hours the next Sunday. Welcome to work with Milan. We will work in Zoom. He will give you practice and exercise, and really he's incredible. And the next Sunday, Milan will with you in the evening. We will have a record of this, and you can come back after again and again to this exercise. It's not Milan really changed my life many years ago. After him, I understood who I am, and I was divorced with my first husband. Thank you, God. It was the best decision, and I find my man, I have my family. I'm very thankful from this, and I learned how to be trust and how to show my anger. And I would like all of you pass from this. What can do Milan, I cannot do. From this reason, I decided to invite him, and you have the opportunity the next Sunday and certain 10th to go to his seminar. Welcome. Milan, last words that you would like to say to the people?
I had prepared those 3 questions just as something to take into hand. Yeah, is that a good time?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's nice just to share something that also is speaks a little bit about what the kind of work that we're doing, or gives you a feeling of the kind of work that you can expect from me. So I thought about a few questions that you can take to heart in the meantime. So one is, what has repeatedly shown up throughout my life? Yeah, so if we look at our life from age, whatever, whenever we become conscious, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah, what keeps popping up as a theme? Yeah, and what does it point me to? That is essential. Usually something, yeah, maybe there's a very strong curiosity, or there's a strong creativity, or maybe there is this communication ability in me. Yeah, something that always shows up, if it has been realized or not. Yeah, but it usually shows up. There's something that like bursts through our essential being. Yeah, what does that point me to? That feels to you as essential. The second question could be, what is my relationship to truthfulness or authenticity? Yeah, our truthfulness and authenticity for this kind of work is just so paramount, is so important. But of course, many times we're not invited to be truthful or authentic. On the contrary, be the way I want you to be. Don't be honest, because that disturbs the flow. And to see, so what is my relationship to truthfulness and authenticity, and how much do I also orient my life around it? Do I really try to bring that in, and how? And the last question, what makes me angry? And here it speaks to the theme of anger. What makes me angry that I hold back and don't express? You know, many times our anger is actually kept inside and not expressed. And what can I understand about that pattern? Yeah. So if I think about what I'm holding back, what is actually being expressed there?
Amazing questions. Very, very good from dessert of these meetings, and people can use it from themselves. After you, I'm always in trance and I'm thinking and in very connection. Thank you a lot from these meetings. It really was very value. Many people can see us after in our YouTube channel, and we wait you the next under certain 10 on the first webinar which we start. Be sure it will continue and work together. Thank you, Milan.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for your time, Natalia.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.